Welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. We have a great show today. I've invited one of my friends. You know her, former school board commissioner. She has a love for this community and a love for our children. She served on the school board for a number of years. Commissioner Patrice Robinson is in the studio, and we're going to talk about a trip she coordinated to Selma to walk across that historic bridge. She was there when President Obama was there. She coordinated a trip and took Memphians to Selma. So we're going to hear all about that. And while I have her in the M1 Network studios, we're going to talk about the state of education here in Memphis and Shelby County. I'm not going to let her get out of here without asking her opinion, because she was a great big part of educating our children, setting policy as a school board commissioner. So I want to know what she's thinking right about now. You're watching Dialogue with Deidre. We'll be back in a moment.
We gotta be smarter about what we bite on, okay? I want everyone to go outside. We're gonna run Red Rover on 3.
What about you, Tony?
I'm gonna run around circles, flatten my arms, and make engine noises like this.
When it comes to playing, we kids are the pros.
We're eating right, too.
We fuel up.
To play 60!
Your school doesn't have a program? Be a leader. Start one.
Click today and join the movement.
I like to ride my bike to get some exercise, just kind of clear my head.
I like to ride because it's really fun for me and my fiance to go ride together.
I started riding my bike as a way to save money on gas.
I like to ride my bike mostly because it's fun and it's good exercise.
That's how I get everywhere. It's how I go to grocery stores, it's go to work, it's how I go to my friend's house.
Sometimes I just like to not even have a particular destination in mind, just to see different parts of the city.
Just going through the park, you see people, and if you're on your bike, you can smile or say hello.
I own 5 bikes. The green Schwinn is my grandfather's bike, and every time I ride it, he can be with me where I go.
I'm not burning gas, I'm not polluting the air. And in a way, it kind of gets me back to the kid in me, which is kind of cool.
I'm Dominique Dawes. How do you start your day? I always start with a healthy breakfast. Whether you're practicing for a game or studying for a test, eating breakfast every day can improve your concentration and help you perform your best. Kids who eat a healthy breakfast have more energy to work hard and play hard. That's why you should check out your school's breakfast program. It's for everyone, so make sure you energize your day. Eat school breakfast.
To Dialogue with Deidre. My guest on this show is Patrice Robinson, former school board commissioner and community activist. Welcome to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre. I really appreciate this opportunity to be here with you this morning.
Well, look, I am just so thrilled that, you've always been a community leader, you've always given back to the community, but to organize a bus trip for Memphians to go participate in the March to Selma, 50 years later?
Yes.
How was that?
Let me tell you, I went to see the movie Selma, and it reinvigorated me, ignited something in me I didn't know was there. I was really concerned about the history of our people and how we got to where we are today. Had it not been for the blood, the sweat, the tears, and the lives of other people, and it doesn't come real to you just reading it in books. Right. When I saw it in real life, reenacted on that stage, on that screen, yes, I said, you know, I've got to get some Memphians to go, because as a former elected official, it was so disheartening not to be able to anticipate more than 15 to 20% of your constituents to go and vote.
Right.
We have forgotten as a people why we have the right to vote. You know, it was written into law, but we still were suppressed. And I see that creeping up again. We have to tell our children. They don't know the history.
They don't.
And I wanted so many more children to participate, but the weather didn't allow it. They had to go to Saturday school, but I still had two to join us on the bus. But let me tell you, we started out with the 3-city tour. We wanted to do the whole civil rights movement, not just Selma. We started out in Birmingham, and we went to the Birmingham Civil Rights Museum. It was phenomenal. And as the young people, we just kind of watched them as they walked through, and all they could say, and you could hear them talking to one another. We didn't know it was like this. There was a classroom there. One side, this is what the African American students' classroom looked like, and this is what the European American, the white students' classroom looked like. And they were just seeing the comparison all the way through the museum. And we were so fortunate to have the Commercial Appeal with us represented. We had WMC TV, and they were interviewing them as they went through the museum, and it was just so heartwarming. The first interview, all of the people who were on the trip, it just brought us to tears as they interviewed the young people. We are not doing a great job in our city. And I have to start with me, with sharing with our children why we have the freedoms that we have today. And we have to tell them that it's so important that they participate in the process. And all they hear are all these cliches about, you know, your vote is your voice. Right. But what does that really mean? That means that if you're 60% of the population, you control everything.
You have the power.
You have the power.
And
you don't have to beg anybody for anything. So the trip was just heartwarming. But we visited the 16th Street Baptist Church. That's where the 4 little black girls were killed in a bombing. But on the road from Montgomery to Selma, we met that pastor's daughter who was there with those little girls. They were her friends. They were in Sunday school, and they were playing a little joke with her little purse, and they had hid it from her. She went back to get her purse, and that's when the bomb went off. She would have been on the staircase with her friends. When she tells the story, goosebumps just comes all over you, and we just began to weep when she told her story. But we're creating a documentary as well. It will be aired this fall, and she's going to be one of the people that we interviewed, and she did it right on the spot when we met her in the Interpretive Museum, and that's right outside of Selma. Let me tell you, we went to Dr. Martin Luther King's first church where he pastored. It was just awesome. We participated in Sunday school so we could get a feel of the place. Now they've called us honorary members.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
But downstairs they had like a museum in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. When you walk out of the church, you see the state capitol. It's right at the end of the street.
I've visited that church.
Yes. So when they walked from Selma, crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and took another 3 days to get to Montgomery, that's where they ended their march and where Dr. Martin Luther King addressed the audience. It was just, words cannot express how it just touched our hearts. But on our second day there in Selma, standing out there with, I assume that there were 50 to 70,000 people out there with us, to cross that bridge, to walk in the footsteps of my forefathers. My grandparents are from Alabama. They're from Florence and Leland. And I felt like I was just walking in their shadows.
You were representing.
Representing, yes. But we all made it. Everyone who wanted to. We had people, young people from the age of 13 all the way up to the age of 85. We walked that bridge, and we were so proud to do so. But we just didn't walk the bridge. We came back and we met last Saturday for breakfast at Piccadilly.
You did?
Yes, we did. And we're going to do a voters registration drive and share with members of our faith-based organization. And it's organized so that we can share with our young people and the people who are part of our congregations that you can no longer stand by and sit down because it's raining outside. I can't go vote. The line is too long. I don't have time. We've got to cut the excuses.
It doesn't matter. No, my vote doesn't matter.
That is wrong.
It's wrong.
We've got to utilize the rights that we have so that we can further prepare our children for the future. That's what happened in Selma. They were making a way for you and for me. Now it's our turn
That's right.
to make a way for our children. We've got to do it, and we've got to stop making excuses.
We do it all the time, Patrice. We say, you know, it's the man's fault, whoever the man is, that we don't advance. But if we do what we're supposed to do our homework on the issues, do our homework on these candidates, and go out and vote for candidates who share our beliefs, our values, want to advance our community.
That's correct.
Then we're going to be okay. But if we stay at home,
we can't do anything.
We
and we got to read, too.
We have to read. we just have to read.
Yes, we have to know.
How was it? Did you get an opportunity to see the president?
Of course I did.
How was that? And how was his speech on TV? It was, you're talking about goosebumps?
That was
chills.
The best message that I've heard our president share with the United States to me since he's been in office. And I brought his speech with me because I didn't want to misquote him. There were two things I wanted to share. He opened up with, no matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean, weary one, upon his breast. God will take care of you. But then he closed out with, he talked through the whole presentation about who we are. We're the future. We're the ones that got to tell the story. We've got to make the decisive decisions today. It was we. But he ended up by saying, we honor those who walked so we could run. Did you hear me? We must run so our children soar. And we will not grow weary, for we believe in the power of an awesome God, and we believe in the country's sacred promise. And he blessed each and every one of us and the warriors of justice alongside him that day. And he said, God bless the United States of America. Thank you, everybody. It was an awesome presentation. We wanted to shout on the streets.
I know you did.
Yes.
Well, look, we were shouting from our offices, those of us who were not there.
Yes.
But that's just amazing to be able to experience that.
Yes.
How many people did you take with you?
I took 56 people with me. Yes,
And
I did.
I have to say, the Commercial Appeal did an outstanding job of covering your trip,
Yes.
as well as Channel 5.
Yes, 3 and 13 as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Every station.
Every station.
I saw Rolidia Morgan took her granddaughter.
Yes, Kendall.
And I
Yes.
thought, now that's just a blessing, and that's a trip she won't ever forget.
No. And I took my niece along with
You
me,
did?
Janet Robinson. And just to hear them, it was so heartwarming. They didn't want to say a lot to the media. They said that they were shy, but they learned so much. But let me tell you what was really awesome. We had a camera crew with us because we were doing a documentary. And one of the cameramen, he said, I'm 30 years old. He just spoke to the whole bus. He wanted to share. He said that he really didn't want to participate, but the person that asked him to come said, meet with me and let's talk about it. He said, I'll go and help you with the documentary, but we're going to flip a coin. Well, he lost that toss and he was with us, and he really didn't want to be with us. But he said the trip changed his life. He has a different appreciation for what our people went through, for his ability to vote. He said he called his daughter every other hour because he wished he had brought her with him. He's going to take his family back so that they can see what he saw, feel what he felt. But you know what was so intriguing about the whole trip? We were in Selma. We got to visit the home that you saw in Selma, where this little girl runs out and says, "Hi, Uncle Martin." You know, Dr. Martin Luther King could not stay in a hotel when he left Montgomery to go to Selma. And there was a dentist named Sully that would take him in. His wife was a school teacher, and she would feed him. But their daughter's name was Joanna. Joanna was in that home that day when we went to Selma on that Saturday. And I brought some information about her home. But Joanna is now Joanna Jackson. She lives in Atlanta, but she wants the home to be curated so that it can be a museum for people to see. It's already a historical landmark. It's open every now and then, but she wants it to be open to the public. We got a private tour. We got to go to the first room in the home, and all the furnishings are the same, everything. And where Dr. Martin Luther King would rest at night. We got to go to the area where they put their boots on and get ready to go out and march, and they make their plans for the day. But she explained to us that because of the Ku Klux Klan would come down the street and shoot sometimes, they moved him from the front room to the middle room to protect him. And she showed us that room, and she opened a drawer and said his original pajamas are still here.
Oh, my goodness.
It was
That's just wonderful.
Yes, it was awesome. And we had an opportunity to take a picture with her. And I brought information with me because she's looking for contributions for people to help her to make that a place where when you go by Selma, that you can come by and see where Dr. Martin Luther King laid his head, ate his meals, and where they strategized for the marches and what they were going to do next.
Well, Patrice, we want to make sure that you share that information, and then we'll make sure that Dawn puts it up on the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page.
Yes, thank you.
So people can obtain that information and make contributions for the cause, because that will be wonderful.
I'd like to share one other thing.
Yes.
We stopped we thought it was just a rest stop, but it was actually a place where it's a museum, and it's sponsored by the National Park Services. And this is where they had a real tent city. Now, in my mind, from reading about this era and time, as people walked from Selma to Montgomery, they had to have a place to rest. But it's my understanding, after they finally got permission to do the march, that after they did it and they went home, they no longer had jobs or places to stay, and that became a permanent place of residence. It had a new meaning for me, tent city.
Right.
They had a replica there. They had the foresters there, sharing the stories. It was just awesome. And I even brought back a video that they showed, so that if anybody wants to view the video or use it, I am willing to share it so that they can get a history, a real feel for what really happened, people who were really there, and why they suffered the way that they suffered. And it's a shame that we don't get up and go and vote. I am out there every day. I have voters registration forms with me all the time. I am talking to people about, don't just register. I need you to go vote to the polls and vote.
It just is amazing. As I listen to you talk, I think back on, we were so young then during that time. I think back on all of the opportunities lost for those civil rights pioneers that marched and boycotted and sat at the counters,
lunch counters,
counters, and were denied food just because of the color of their skin. Beaten up, dogs going after them, police attacking them, and we don't take advantage of the opportunities that our forefathers, and it's in our lifetime, Patrice.
Yes, it is.
In
yes,
our
it is.
lifetime, they had to go through this to
Deidre.
have to make opportunities for us, and
Well,
we don't vote.
That's correct. I remember, and I know I had to have been 5 or 6 years old, going into Lowenstein's in Whitehaven Plaza, and there was a colored water fountain and a white water fountain. I remember I was going to go to the white water fountain. My daddy told me no, and I said, well, I want to know the difference. What does colored water look like, and what does white water look like?
Right.
And he explained to me it was the same. You just can't. And then I remember going downtown to the movies at the Orpheum. You remember going to the Orpheum? And I had to go upstairs to see Jesus Christ Superstar.
Right.
So those are the things that I remember. I remember Black Mondays where we didn't go to school because we were trying to integrate the schools here in Memphis. And it didn't have that meaning to us because they protected us. But they told us the story, but now we have to share the story with our young people.
I'm so appreciative of Roz Withers for sharing with me. If you come to my office, you can see some of Ernest Withers, no matter what you think of him and what he did or didn't do, what was alleged by the FBI. His photographs are historical. And if you come to my office, you see one picture in particular of when, it says no white people allowed at the zoo today.
That's the first one I saw when I got here this morning.
And it's a constant reminder to me that, there were days that black folk couldn't go to the zoo.
That's right.
You only had one day. And that was the day white folk couldn't go.
That's right.
And so, but that was in our lifetime, Patrice.
Yes, it was. Yes,
and
it was.
And so, we just have to remind young folk and even folk our age of the history and let them know the importance of voting. It's just amazing that we'll sit at home, like you said, it's raining, we're not going. If somebody's upset me that day, not going. And legally, if you work, they have to give you on election day time to get off work and go vote.
Yes.
And so there's just no excuse.
That's absolutely correct.
No excuse at all.
And then, there's talk now about making it mandatory for people to vote. I believe that within the spirit of every person, they should have enough inside of them to say, I'm going to do this on my own.
Right.
You don't have to make me
do it.
We need to do it on our own. We need to go to the polls. We need to know what the issues are. And we need to investigate the people that we put in place to represent us.
It's so sad that there's even discussion. I know President Obama is advancing that at a national level, but I think it's one state that now it's mandatory that you have to go vote. And I thought, okay, that's kind of progressive, but to your point, we shouldn't have to make it mandatory.
No.
But you know what? By any means necessary.
Yes. But it should be a part of our culture.
It should
be. And that's what our children are missing. We are not sharing. We are working so hard to get so many material things that our families are being destroyed. We are not thinking about the stories that we tell our children about our past, our history, our parents, our grandparents, and we've got to keep that history going. We don't write it down anymore. We just got Facebook, Twitter, and all those. We're not capturing that information. Our pictures are now all on our cell phones, and they're not in books that we can pass on. We've got to recreate that and make sure that our children have something to take forward with them. I asked everyone on the bus with me, go back and make a journal. Write down what you saw, how you felt when you walked across that bridge, all the places that we met people and talked to people who were there that day 50 years ago, so that our children will have that as a part of their history, a part of their legacy. We've got to do that as a people.
That's important. I know a couple of years ago, I signed up for the web service Ancestry.com to try and track my family, and it's amazing when you start going back and my great, I think it was great-great-grandfather, who, Willie Curtis, down in Utica, Mississippi, was murdered because a white female said something to him. And, he owned his own property and, was well respected in the town. And white female said something to him. Next thing you knew, he was murdered and he was thrown in front of a train. Track and God. And I guess murdered again. He was already dead, but so you just think about everything that your family's gone through.
Yes.
And where you are. You got here on the backs of their efforts.
That's correct.
So, and we need to appreciate that and know our history.
Yes,
it's
we
so
do.
Important.
Yes, and we need to know the history about what happened right here in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
It was so funny where we were in the Sully's home in Selma. I was reminded that they had people to protect Dr. Martin Luther King while they were in the home. Found out it was a white male that protected him. But when he came to Memphis, Tennessee, we couldn't seem to protect him, could we?
We could.
We couldn't do it. We have to remind our young people that they need to love themselves, protect their families, and family is so important. And the ability to go out and vote has nothing to do with this is the Constitution of the United States. It has to do with family, the history of family, and their ability to voice their opinions.
That's so important.
Yes.
One thing I'm very proud of the fact that the city of Memphis is trying to do. Memphis is known, worldwide as the place where Dr. King was assassinated. This is, gave his mountaintop speech at Mason Temple, the historic Mason Temple, that is, the headquarters for the Church of God in Christ denomination. And
that I'm a member of.
Exactly. And then, but when I think about the city of Memphis trying to capture history in a 14-block area called Memphis Heritage Trail, and the whole focus is on African American history because in that 14-block area is where a lot of your African American leaders lived, owned businesses, Civil Rights Lorraine Motel,
yes,
Mason Temple. I mean, all of that is located, and so they're planning that now, and I'm just so proud of Memphis because it's going to highlight those, heroes and heroines who a lot of people don't know. You hear about the Ben Hooks all the time, the Maxine Smith, the Ida B. Wells, but they're individuals that you don't know, but they had such a role in the civil rights movement that you're going to learn about as a part of this Memphis Heritage Trail. So we'll come back and talk about that on another show.
Yes, thank you.
Right now, what I'd like to do is, Patrice, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back. I really want to talk to you about the state of education here in Memphis and Shelby County.
Okay, we'll try.
You're watching Dialogue with Deidre. We'll be back in a moment.
I like to ride my bike to get some exercise, just kind of clear my head.
I like to ride because it's really fun for me and my fiance to go ride together.
I started riding my bike as a way to save money on gas.
I like to ride my bike mostly because it's fun and it's good exercise.
That's how I get everywhere. It's how I go to grocery stores, to go to work. It's how I go to my friend's house.
Sometimes I just like to not even have a particular destination in mind, just to see different parts of the city.
Just going through the park, you see people, and if you're on your bike, you can smile or say hello.
I own 5 bikes. The green Schwinn is my grandfather's bike, and every time I ride it, and he can be with me where I go.
I'm not burning gas, I'm not polluting the air. And in a way, it kind of gets me back to the kid in me, which is kind of cool.
The Harlem Globetrotters play basketball all over the world, every day of the year. To stay at the peak of our game, we have to eat right. When we eat better, we feel better. Kids are just the same. When they eat better, they feel better. They have more energy through the day. They may even get better grades. So talk with your kids about eating healthy, sustainable foods in school and serve those foods at home. Make a pledge to make a difference at earthday.org.
I'm Dominique Dawes. How do you start your day? I always start with a healthy breakfast. Whether you're practicing for a game or studying for a test, eating breakfast every day can improve your concentration and help you perform your best. Kids who eat a healthy breakfast have more energy to work hard and play hard. That's why you should check out your school's breakfast program. It's for everyone, so make sure you energize your day. Eat school breakfast.
And now let's take some questions from the public.
Mr. Chairman, why do we keep cutting back on education?
Governor, you want to take that question?
Mr. Chairman, let's give this one to the Senate Majority Leader.
Since this matter was taken up in AB 3712, I think it best if I defer to the Assembly Majority Leader.
Actually, pursuant to Department of Education statutes, the State Secretary of Education would be more qualified to answer. Mr. Secretary.
My legal team has advised me not to comment at this time, so I'll humbly refer to our State Superintendent of Schools.
Pass. Definitely pass. Okay, County Superintendent.
Well, young lady, it's just too complicated.
Can you tell me who's responsible for my education?
That is a good question. Governor?
Repeat the question, please.
I don't see why I can't get an answer from
You're asking a lot of difficult questions.
Oh, she sure is.
Who are you?
Well, I'm the governor.
What is this?
Your 2 minutes are up.
Stop the circus. Contact your legislators at thisbudgetblows.com.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed all that.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Wow, Teller Brown is your drugstore, and your drugstore. Hey, we everyone's drugstore. And we're located at 3333 East Shelby Drive, 794-3690. All medical plans. We support supported living, assisted living. We do it all. And guess what? We even have a $4 plan. Hey, call to ask Dr. Brown about that. I gotta go because she's coming with those boots.
The Carter Malone Group is a full-service public relations agency. Celebrating 10 years of being in business, the Carter Malone Group is located in Midtown Memphis and represents clients across the country. No matter what size your business, if you are interested in promoting your product or service and increasing your market share, contact the firm that can help you meet your goals. The Carter Malone Group. Call 901-278-0881 today.
Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. I forgot to mention that if you have questions for former Commissioner Patrice Robinson, please post those questions on the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page. What I will do is I will make sure that she gets those questions and responds to them, and we will post her answers and her responses to you on the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page. Patrice is in the studio with me. Patrice, talk to me about the documentary. You've mentioned it a couple of times. I want to know, what is that going to be about? Is it going to be about your total trip?
Yes, let me tell you, this is started out just as a trip from Memphis to Selma so that we could celebrate the history of our heritage. But you know, I want to say this, that the theme throughout the whole weekend that we spent in Selma, it was remember, restore, and recommit. I had a person that to call me that saw me on Channel 5 one morning talking about the trip. And she said, my husband and I had a television show for 18 years. I think it was called Tomorrow You or You Tomorrow. And she said that her husband is no longer living, but she promised him that she would come back. Her show was for teens, for young people, and she wanted to go on this trip and document every place that we go so that we can share that with young people and document it so they can see their history and hear it from the voices of even younger people.
I love it.
Yes, and she just took a crew. She paid for it. It's just awesome. She paid for a group of 4 people. They were our cameraman, our anchors.
I bet y'all know who this lady is. Judy?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
She is incredible.
Yes, she is.
McEwen?
McEwen.
Yes,
Judy
McEwen. Shout out to Judy. This is awesome.
Yes. And she interviewed the students. She interviewed everyone where we went. We even found a group of young people from Atlanta that are being mentored. They were there, some young men. And in the fall, she plans to have the grand opening of her new station and share that information with young people. And our theme is going to be, I'm voting. Are you?
Wonderful.
Yes, yes.
I hope that message resonates throughout our community because we need people to vote. Patrice.
Yes, yes.
We need them to vote.
So the documentary will include voices of the youth, voices from the past, voices from the present. And we were trying to do just a 30-minute documentary, but I think
it's going to be an hour at least.
Yes.
At least.
Well, I think she said she's gotten 3 or 4 shows out of it already. And she and last Saturday, I told you that the group came back together to discuss what are our next steps. And she got some videotaping of each person and how they felt now that they're back and what they're going to do moving forward to help our young people understand what they have, what history, what rich history we have, and why we shouldn't be made to vote. We should get up and go out and participate in the voting process.
Need to be the first one in the line.
Yes, yes,
first one and just be there, ready to vote.
Yes.
Education. You know, how long were you on the school board? Was it about 12 years?
13 years, 9 months, and 30 days.
Did you hear her? 30 days. She remembers 30 days. Oh, my goodness. Patrice, so you have been a big part of, the positive changes we've had in our school system. Memphis City Schools, my boys came through Memphis City Schools. I was a Memphis City Schools parent, PTA. Shout out to Snowden and Central, and they educated my sons, and I think they did an awesome job. Public education is a good investment.
Yes, it is.
And you were a part of the merger of the two school systems. I publicly, and I'm not ashamed of it, proud of the fact that I wanted Memphians to have an opportunity to vote on the referendum, and still feel strongly that a lot of things happened that were beyond our control at the state level.
Yes.
In terms of, fighting back everything that we could have done that would have been positive in terms of making sure that the systems were merged. You were a part of the leadership on the board at the time during all of that. How do you think that went? And are you happy with the situation today?
Now, let me share with you. The time that I was on the school board, I spent a lot of time learning about why I was supporting and advocating for public education with all of my being.
Right.
And as I traveled, because I didn't just represent us in Memphis or in my district in Whitehaven and Hickory Hill. I represented us on a state level with the National School Board Association, with the the Tennessee School Board Association as well. But as I listened to the dialogue, everywhere I went for conferences, for learning, for training, so that I could better our community and our educational system. I was hearing some background noise the whole time about here are other opportunities. We want choices. And I was hearing picking off our schools for people to make private dollars.
Privatization.
And had nothing to do with the education of our children. And it was disheartening to me. But this is what I remember from the community that I represented. I was told by my community that I represented that they no longer want to pay dual taxes. They were paying taxes for education as a part of the city. They were paying taxes for education as a part of the county. And they knew that Memphis was a part of Shelby County.
Largest piece.
That's correct. And they felt like that was not fair to them. Although they wanted the best education for their children, they wanted optional schools, so those are options for them. And we had an optional school in our community, and it's an all-optional school, John P. Freeman. And as I worked with the other board members in the other areas of town, I saw that there was a need for us to expand and to grow on that. But this was problematic for not just the school district, but for me as well. That we had a situation where Memphis City School was not, and people believed that we were a municipal school district. We were not. Right. We were a special school district. And nobody said that. I guess they swept that up under the carpet or the table. But a special school district had to have support of the municipality that they were in. And also they were supported because by law, the county is responsible for funding schools. Right. But what would happen is when it was time for us to look at our budget, and that was one of the major responsibilities of a school board person, we had to go to the city first and get the budget approved and pick it off. And really, it was just a song, a song and dance that we did every year, a pony show, whatever you want to call it. And then you had to leave there, and then you go over to the county and do this dog and pony show again. And we weren't accomplishing what we needed to accomplish. Every year we were cutting. And to improve in a society where everything is more expensive, there's no way economically you can do better with less.
That's right.
I don't understand how we allow people to help us think that something was wrong with, the model that we currently have. But in saying all that, I just want to say, I knew the best position for all children in Shelby County was to be with the institution that the government had made responsible for education in the first place.
That's right.
Now we're moving to a place where we're saying the institution of the state level is not giving us what we need, so we're even thinking about suing. But to complicate the matter, if we were still a special school district, then you have to go through all these other governmental bodies and red tape to be able to help your own children.
That's right.
Now that your children are all in one system and everybody is in the same pot, then maybe we can work better together, but that is not what's happening, because even in my own community, we're still confused about who's responsible for what. Even on my last campaign trail, it was so funny to me. People would walk up to me and say things like, I'm standing in front of a school campaigning. You gave the children away.
Oh, did we not hear that?
And the children were standing right there in the same schoolyard. But who did I give them to?
Right.
Us.
Right. Still in the same school.
Yes.
Right. Memphis is the largest municipality in Shelby County schools. Memphis is in Shelby County?
Yes.
I don't understand what your point is. You and I both had a difficult time.
Yes.
Because we were attacked so much about this issue.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't back down because we believed it was the right thing. And still today, I believe
it's the right
it was
thing.
the right thing to do.
But whether it was the right thing to do, the most expedient thing to do at that time, we know that the citizens of Memphis who live in Shelby County are much better off paying one tax and being able to track that one tax.
Exactly.
Now, if it's not allocated properly, you have elected officials that you can go to and request information about what happened to those dollars. Right at the time when we were a special school district, that was actually a special school district that didn't operate like other special school districts in the state of Tennessee, that whole model needed to be demolished. And if we wanted to be a true special school district, we had to open up our we have a lot of terminology within. I just want to say it where people can understand it. It's like a contract, and this is our right to do business. This is what we do. But to do that, you have to open it up, and your federal government has a right to say something, your state government, your county commissioners, and that wasn't in the best interest of our community to just open up our charter that way.
Right.
So we decided that, we'll just get a new charter. We'll get on the one that's already there. That's already there, that's made for us. And originally, in our lifetime, Shelby County was the school district for African American people because we lived in
the suburbs
on farms.
That's right. That's right.
And then the people who lived in the city were then white.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we moved to the city and we started taking over, they decided they wanted to move back to the county. But the Shelby County school system was for us in the first place.
That's right.
And people think that the city school system was ours. It wasn't.
You know how
that's what tickled me so.
Often, I know you heard the same thing. You gave away our school system. It was our school system. I said, wait a minute. First of all, Memphians voted on it.
That's correct.
The first thing. The second thing is, aren't we still the majority in Shelby County? So how did we give it away?
That's right.
I mean, African Americans are still the majority. And so we didn't give anything away. We tried to make it equitable for all of our children who attend public schools here in Shelby County.
And if we would, and if we would work together, we would have more, and our children would have that capacity to do more.
Right.
And it is my earnest prayer that we start working together and not against one another, and to listen to one another. We won't even listen to each other. We just made up our minds that we have done something just so horribly wrong. But if it is, you can always change it. All it requires is new legislation. But why would you go back to doing something that you used to do that didn't work?
Right.
And it was not giving us the dollars that we needed for education. And while we're talking about that, I want to share, this new terminology that it's like every year you have a new management theory that comes out.
Yes.
We want parents to have choice. So that now we have so many choices out there. I remember when Dr. Cash came. I've been through so many superintendents.
Yes, you had Carol, Kreiner, Johnny. Oh, that's right. I really like Johnny.
Mr. Ward.
That's right.
Yes. And I've been through several selections of superintendents. But Dr. Cash made it real for me. He was a numbers man. He could look at the statistics, and he shared with us that because in the inner city we have so much mobility among African American children, they were not getting the continuity that they needed when their parents moved because they couldn't pay the rent here, or they couldn't pay the utility bill, or they didn't have a job and they would have to move. And he said that our children needed a curriculum or a place where wherever they go, they could pick up where they left off. So now we have all these choices. So when children leave, I heard somebody talk about that at school board meeting last night. I was just tickled that we are back to that same place. If we don't know our history, we don't understand where we came from, we make those same mistakes. I remember when I first got on the school board, we were talking about all the models that Dr. House had in place.
I remember.
And the school board dismantled all of that, and we found a couple of models that really worked well with our children, especially as it became more they became more mobile. And then Dr. Cash came in and brought some other initiatives that would help those children so that they could be more productive, because every time they moved, they would lose up to 6 to 9 months of learning. And we're trying to move forward, not backwards. Now that you open up all this choice for parents, they can't hardly maneuver the current system. Now you're going to add additional choices for people to make additional choices and divide the money up even more, divide up the system even more. And as children move now from different systems, different way of doing things, different models, there's no continuity for them again. Why do we keep repeating that history? Because my idea is better than yours. I hope that one day we can come to the table and agree on our children need some stability in our community. Our families and our communities do matter. We didn't want to close schools, but if you don't have enough money to make sure that they have the things that they need in the classroom, you have to cut where you can.
That's right.
So it won't have such a great impact on schools. We don't want to destroy communities. That's not our goal. Every school board member on the board loves their community because we live in the community. We're not from any foreign places. We live in that community, and we want to build our community. And to do so, we're going to have to start working together. And that goes back to voting. We got to remember where we came from. We got to be able to restore those things that we believe are important to our community. And we've got to stop fighting over whose idea is better.
That's right.
And I need to be here and you don't. And remember that we're here and recommit to our community and to our children and share with them that legacy and build on that legacy and talk about what can we do to help improve rather than how we can tear down and destroy those things that have happened in the past. Let's leave the past behind us. Let's take hold of what we have now, and let's move to the future.
I mean, you have just really preached to our audience today, Patrice, because it's all about moving forward, and the best way to move forward is we do it together.
Yes.
You know, we are so busy just tearing each other down.
That's correct.
And it's not good for our community. It's not good for our children, specifically on issues that we all care about, and we all care about education.
Right.
And so we just need to lock arms, and we shouldn't care whose idea it is.
That's correct.
If it's smart and it's going to work, and if it's a good idea, let's get behind it and let's support it.
Yes. And what I'm so disappointed about in our community is that we have forgotten about family. And it starts at home.
It does.
And we need to love ourselves and love ourselves enough that we're going to support our children. We're going to support what's best for our children. And we're not going to buy into every new idea that hits the table.
That's right.
We're going to stick with the basics and move forward.
Look, you learn that reading, writing, and arithmetic, it's going to take you where you need to go.
That's correct.
It's going to take you where you need to. And look, his grandparents, I'm telling you, I'm an old grandma, and I'm sitting there with my little first grader, and I'm like, I don't remember this, but yeah, we're going to get this done.
But if you can read,
it's a village. It's our family's responsibility to make sure we help our children.
And if we can read, we can do the math.
We can.
If we understand the vocabulary, we can do the math.
That's right.
If we can read, we can do the science.
That's right.
If we can read, we can do the history. If we can read, we can do everything we need to do. We can even travel the world. I want our children to stick to the basics. I want our community to come back together and work together on what we know is what's best for our children and stop fighting one another. That's a big issue. We need to stop the fight, show love, show some compassion, and let's work together.
And we're going to leave on that note. Patrice Robinson, thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre, and we will definitely have you come back because we just want to continue talking about what's going to be good for our community, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. You've been watching Dialogue with Deidre. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you have questions for me or have an idea for the show or questions for Patrice, please just post it on the Facebook page, the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page, and I promise you she will respond. We'll see you next week, and have a great rest of your day.